Alrighty, let's start today off with your USD. But before we go on to today's pairs, I just want to check in with our pairs from yesterday, starting with CAD JPY. CAD JPY gave us blues because it respected our sell zone and gave us 74 pips. Whoops, Mr. Cloud is up. 74 pips, alright? So if you want to still hold that, make sure you set break even. Next, GU. Now, GU, I was telling you if you wanted to scalp, just monitor this, because if it respects this engulfing sell, then it would just use this to bounce back up and down for a sideways until one of the zones break. But if it wants to continue into a buy, it has to break this, and potentially the price can retrace back into the key level of this H4 if you were to find it for a potential buy up to continue to test this sell zone. All right, so currently I feel like it's doing that, because after breaking, now it's leaving a wick, a potential wick, right, in this zone right here. But still no trade for GU for me, because GU, sorry, because I gave a sell over here and a buy over here. I'm not going to press until it reaches in these two. All right, last but not least, EG. Now EG is currently retesting the key levels again. It ran in blues a bit, but EG is quite also a very heavy slow pair, but the exchange rate is quite good, right? So it's really retesting our key level. Let me just, because we also have a daily key level, all right? So because we have a daily and an H4, it's quite worth it, a high quality zone for the sell that I gave yesterday. And not only that, it might be slow because since it was the start of the week, not only that, but in the multi-time frames portion or the aspect, it might want to create all of those before actually dropping, right? So you can see on H1, it's creating that engulfing sell meets an engulfing sell, potential engulfing sell. On M30, it's also creating that, a lot of engulfing sells. Even on M15, it's failing to break our zone, and on M5 doing the same thing. All right, so it might want to create all of that first before the big drop. If it drops, then it's respecting our zone, because we do have a higher chance of it winning as a sell because of all those things lining up. But if it fails, then it's just a sell. That's just the way the market is. Nothing is 100%. But for me, this is quite a good sell, in my opinion. All right? But either way, we still have to wait and see. Okay, now starting with EU. Now, EU is currently dropping on this H4, which will close in approximately 24 minutes. All right? So I've drawn an engulfing sell that potentially would meet this other engulfing sell, and also an engulfing buy that potentially would meet this engulfing sell. So we have two sellers over here. I have drawn the key levels for this lower zone, but for you, try to map out the key levels over here. All right, hint is when you map it out, this should be poking the key level for the drop. So yes, wait a sec. And so that, right, then we have, this would be our sell zone and our buy zone, which is an engulfing sell that failed. Price came back after breaking, created this engulfing buy, and the buy was so strong that it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue or buy candles with no breaking of this continuation, right? So the buyers are quite strong. And mind you, I also adjusted this buy zone because we had a sell zone over here before that it respected quite well, but after breaking, so I had to adjust it to adapt to the market, right? So now it's just a bit lower, but the key level is around the same place. Okay, so what can EU do? Now, EU, mind you, that a lot of you have been asking for this, and like I always say, EU is quite a very slow pair, right? 20 to 40 pips per day. Sometimes you find a trade, sometimes you don't. But it's a very safe pair to trade, meaning it follows the technical analysis quite well, right? But sometimes you don't find those trades in a day, right? Because it's just very slow for it to actually travel from zone to zone. So that's what I see it might happen today, is that it might not retrace back into our key level if it wants to continue to drop. It also might not reach our buy key level because that's already 56 pips so far away. All right, but it could happen. I'm just saying that usually it doesn't. So either we can wait for some high impact news or some news that could cause a sudden spike or a sudden drop. All right. Just to mind you, if you can't find any trades for today for EU, then during the week is also okay, as long as the zones are valid. All right. So we have current prices over here. What can it do? If it wants to retrace back after closing, right? So the next H4, if it wants to retrace back into our sell key level and H4 respects it, then potentially we can catch a sell. If it decides it wants to test this higher key level for a sell, it can also do just that. All right, so go map it out. Now, if it breaks above this zone, we still have this engulfing sell potentially meeting another engulfing sell zone, right? But if it breaks above this zone and this zone, then we know that our sellers have been overpowered totally, completely by the buyers. So then we can say it would probably test a higher zone. After breaking, the price can go up in one go or retrace back into this key level of this upper zone or in this lower zone for a better buy up. Okay, vice versa. If it continues to drop into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we catch a buy back up. If it breaks below, then it might want to test a lower area. Okay, we have a buy zone lower, just waiting for it to happen also. Okay, so where do you monitor for entries? If you're a low risk trader, wait for H4 to close first, then switch down to M5 or M15 to find your setups. If you have a higher risk appetite, then while H4 is playing around in the zone, you can switch down to M5 or M15 to find your entries. Now, try to use M15 before M5 because always follow the higher time frame first. If you can't find anything on M15, then just swap down to M5. All right? Next, GJ, quite a popular pair. All right? We have our sell zone up top and our buy zone down below. Now, it's currently dropping, right? It was so close to this key level, but you wouldn't have caught it because this was in the Asia's session, which volume can be wonky. So, it's still a zone for us to monitor, whether today or tomorrow. All right, so we have our sell zone up here and our buy zone down here, mind you. I already told you that it's still in or within our daily HLZ for a sell. All right, it's just a matter of where and when it's going to drop. Okay, if it wants to drop. So our sell zone is up here. It's an engulfing buy that failed, right, over here, and engulfing buy that failed. So it might want to test that because it already poked once over here, poked the key level and dropped all the way down, but it did not touch this key level. Rather, it respected this engulfing buy meets engulfing buy zone. But still, these engulfing buys were in this engulfing sell that failed, right? So the key level, the sharpest point of entry would be here, the best price possible, but it flew from here, so it's okay. Now, it's currently wanting to test this key level again, so either we wait up in this key level for a potential sell or this key level for a buy. All right, but in the daily time frame, it's a sell. All right, even on the weekly itself, you can see that it's an engulfing sell, potentially meeting the engulfing sell. So on this week, it might want to test a higher area before the actual drop. We also have this engulfing buy. Oh, it's an engulfing buy meeting an engulfing sell. So we have EFEG sell, but a lot of gaps, right? But it's okay. At least we know the daily and the H4 is a sell. So it's just a matter of when and where. All right, so let me go back to H4, zoom out a little. There we go. Okay, what can it do? Again, repeating the same things over and over until you will be able to talk to the charts. If it climbs up into our sell zone and respects it, meaning H4 closes within, not above, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. If it breaks above, then it might want to test a higher area. Vice versa, if it drops into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. If it breaks down below, then it might want to test a lower area. Right? With GJ, although the distance from the current price to the key level could be 100 pips, GJ is a very volatile pair. Very volatile. It's the gold of the currencies. So it is possible for it to reach the zone even though it's 100 or 200 pips away from the current price. So something to monitor, right? Your SLs, after entering, make sure you count 40 pips from your entry, and that will be your SL. Okay? And last but not least, we have UJ. UJ is currently trying to come back down to test our key level for a buy. So we have our buy zone, that's an engulfing sell that failed. In the process of failing, created this engulfing buy. Price came back, tapped the key level, flew, and then closed within, creating this engulfing buy. So now we have our ABC or our HLZ for a buy for UJ. Alright, current price is up top over here, and our next sell zone is quite far. It's up here, which is more than 100 pips. Over 200 pips, alright? So with that being in mind, we know that it would probably test the closest zone first, right? So it's a chance of it, higher chance of it testing our buy zone because it's only 30 to 40 pips away. Okay, so what can UJ do? Excuse me. UJ, if it wants to drop into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. If it breaks down below, then it might want to test, excuse me, a lower area. Vice versa, if it decides to just fly into our sell zone and respects that, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. But if it breaks above, then I might want to test a higher area. Right? TPs, I usually set my first TPs at 20 pips. After it hitting 20 pips, I will set break even for the rest. Alright, so break your TPs down to something that you are comfortable with so you don't end up closing your profits beforehand. Alright, that's it for the 3 pairs. Trade smart, trade wisely. It's only a Tuesday. If you can't find any setups, don't rush into it. Alright, talk to you soon. Bye.